Hi, Meryl.
Hi.
We're playing with my iPhone. And so you apparently channeled one of my favorite actresses for this movie, a woman named Margaret Dumont.
Oh,
From the Marx
of
Brothers
course,
movies.
of course.
The original battle axe. So explain how you created this character with the costume designer and with your hair collaborators and everything.
Yes, well, the costume designer was the great and unsung Consolata Boyle, who is the most genius, instinctive, imaginative, feeling artist. She's a costume designer who is, she serves the story without fear, without any limits on her imagination. And she was so willing. I'm a total pain in the ass for any costume designer because that's what I took my degree in, is costume design. That's what I secretly would love to be, and Anne Roth knows it. And I've always been really interested in how costume helps make character. And the little decisions about what people put on their bodies, like today you're wearing a fish pin, and everything signifies, everything tells us something about a character and about their approach to life. So with Florence, we couldn't stop. We found ourselves in the costume, in the fittings. She would bring in we had a template body, which was generous.
You were wearing a fat suit.
I was wearing, yes, that kind of front that women of a certain generation had, that this was an indiscriminate bust that sort of grew into a belly, and it was my grandmother. But how lovingly designers dressed women of that time. How graceful they were, really. They were like, there are New Yorker cartoons that are women of this era that
with
I
little
remember.
feathers
With
in
always
their
the
head.
feather, and they'd always be commenting on Harry, Harry feels that he knows what I'm going to say, and I know what he's going to say, so we just don't bother really anymore.
Well, it was refreshing to have you and Hugh Grant in this loving, platonic marriage. I found this relationship fascinating because he's like giving up himself in a way to her, in a way that women often do for men, and you don't see it very often.
That's right. And he will be the first to tell you that there was opportunism in it, as there were in many, many marriages where there's a discrepancy on, usually it's the man making a lot of money, and the woman acquiesces because it's in her economic and her spiritual and her emotional interest to make life good for both of us, And so it was interesting to have a man in that position. But there's no doubt that she was his meal ticket, and she was the love of his life as well, and that kind of partnership and devotion, it's just devotion, that mutuality of they share something, they share a love of art and a belief in it, almost like a religious belief in music and Shakespeare, and it was like a little dream they held aloft mutually. It's like a little illusion, like love often is, that you both hold up in the air and hope that it never falls down.
So what audiences responded to in Florence, and what you brought across so beautifully, is this love of what she was doing and this bravura confidence.
Yes, it's the confidence that children have, that we all have when we're little, and you pretend to be something, and you have no doubt that that's who you are for those 5 minutes. And the way kids immerse themselves in make-believe because they want it to be that way. she had immense challenges in her life, to her life. I mean, she was living on the edge. And so she was just determined that every minute she had was going to be filled with as much joy and pleasure and music as she could manage.
All right, let's get to the music. I am not a professional. I've taken some singing classes.
Oh.
Okay, a few, but I can recognize that you calibrated some kind of extraordinary, difficult, bad singing that was also comedic without making fun of her. That I hand to you.
Well, I think the secret is in the belief and in the love of the doing. It's the true amateur. You know, if you play in the theater, over time you come to understand that your audience is filled with people who are there because they want to see a really good play, but also there's some part of them, many of them, who wanted to do that at one point, at 11 or 15 or 21, sort of thought, I'd love to be in a play, you know? And they're there because you're living out some sort of dream for them. And it is, ballet companies, opera companies are supported by people who couldn't do that, but are there because they love it. They love seeing it. They'd give their eye teeth to be able to leap across the stage, but they have the love of the art and they support it. And I'm aware of that. That's Florence, and she just had a little bit more money and a little more daring and a little more less self-editing, that she thought, well, I want to, so why don't I? And so she just followed her dream, and I don't think it's anything wrong with it.
I don't either, and it was a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to watch. But the actual delivery of those notes on your part must have been a lot of work and preparation for you.
I prepared by learning the arias to sing them as well as I possibly could, which is probably like a B-, C+.
I bet it would sound good to most people.
But, you know, I'm friends with Audra McDonald. I know what real singing sounds like, and I know where I fall on the scale of great singers. And yet, I love to sing. So there's something of Florence I share. I know that I'm not a great singer, but I think I had a teacher in drama school who taught me something really true about acting, which is that music reaches us emotionally in a way nothing can, no words can. And you can, in a song, access emotion so readily. It's why many actors listen to music for inspiration, to be moved, and to get in the mood for a scene. And why watching a movie without its score is to have a kind of emotionless experience. When they put the score in, the emotion is lifted and it's just sort of delivered to you, and you're kind of pulled by a tide. You don't even know where it came from. So for me, music is that, and I've always wished I have that in common with Florence. I've wished for that access to what a great singer can give me, what I've received in certain. I just saw Renee Fleming at Tanglewood sing the 4 last songs, and I thought, you know, there it is. There's everything. There's everything that we all aspire to.
But then it must have been painful to make it sound bad.
No, that was fun. That was really fun. That was really fun because it was, it was live and it was with Simon, and Simon is such a genius, and he plays beautifully and feelingly and attentively. So he was so attuned to me. We really had a good connection, and we thought that they were going to let us pre-record and that we'd lip sync. That's what we did in Mamma Mia. Most musicals, because it makes it easier to cut. It's very difficult to cut between takes or between cameras, and the timing of the music is really important. So usually you work to a click track. But then we did that, and we made what we thought was sort of wonderful recordings. And Stephen said, he said, you sound too good. The singing is too good. And so that was part of why I think they used the live singing.
That meant you had to be very precise.
And then we had to be very precise. And yet, by him saying we were going to sing live, it was going to be his problem how he was going to edit it. It was not going to be my problem. So I thought, well, the hell with it. We'll just do what we want. And it was so much fun.
Good.
And it lives in the moment because it isn't pre-recorded.
You can tell.
Yeah, you can tell.
Thank you.
Thank you.